We're going over everything we know about Childe from the current closed beta test, his skills, translated constellations, ascensions, all of that stuff. He looks a ton of fun to play, so let's get right into it for you guys. So if you haven't seen anything about Childe yet, he's going to have two new mechanics based around him. This is because he's going to be using a bow, but he also has a melee form. Now, on top of that, he's going to have this system called, as we know right now, the Broken Flow system. This is going to be a series of different debuffs. They're going to do AoE hydro damage, and we'll get into that as we talk about the character. So we'll have the stuff pop up on the screen for you guys, and let's get right into it. So his charge attack is going to be his base form bow. He's got a 6-shot normal attack with the bow. He also has a charge attack. Now, if you do a charged attack, it will provide you the Broken Flow elemental debuff there. So what Broken Flow does, it's a debuff. When you hit the enemy with any of Childe's attacks, the Broken Flow is going to do AoE hydro damage to all nearby enemies. This damage, as we know from what's been translated so far, is calculated as normal or regular attack damage. Now, we don't know if this means that it's going to be a normal attack. If it gets buffed up by the normal damage increase stat, that would be exceptionally powerful. If that also is the case, there are hydro, normal attack, additional damage proc would be amazing on him. Now, his elemental skill is going to do a couple of things. It's going to do some damage to all nearby enemies, and then it's going to put him into a melee stance. Now, while in melee stance, all of your regular attacks are going to be hydro damage guaranteed, and this does up to a 6-hit combo. You also have a charge attack here that works traditionally like a lot of the other melee attacks do. He's going to do 2 quick hits, and it's going to cost you stamina, also doing hydro damage. Now, in his melee form, he's going to have Broken Flow Slash. Now, this is going to be different than the Broken Flow. So Broken Flow Slash works like this. If you hit an enemy that already has a Broken Flow on him while in your melee stance, Broken Flow Slash will be executed, dealing AoE hydro damage, and this effect is also translated right now to be calculated as a regular attack damage. Regular attack damage obviously doesn't mean it's going to be physical damage because it's a hydro damage attack. Also does hydro AoE damage. So if this gets the bonus like we've been talking about the normal attack increase, that would be an insane thing for him. Now, after that, we also have the Elemental Burst. This has 2 different forms. He has 2 different Elemental Bursts, one for his ranged form and one for his melee form. The ranged form shoots, obviously, a magical arrow made out of water, and it's going to damage your enemies there. It's also going to apply the Broken Flow debuff to them. When you use the ranged version of the Elemental Burst, it's also going to refund some of that elemental energy you spent casting the Elemental Burst. This is because the melee burst is really what you want to be trying to use, because the melee burst is as follows. You do a wide slash attack, dealing a lot of hydro damage to nearby enemies and also triggering Broken Flow Burst. Now, Broken Flow Burst is AoE hydro damage will be dealt to enemies while under Broken Flow is hit with the Elemental Burst, and then the Broken Flow will be consumed in the process. So what you want to be doing here, guys, is you need the initial Broken Flow. He's got Broken Flow Slash, and Broken Flow Burst. Broken Flow is its own thing, and it's going to be like the minimum, the starting point, right? We don't have the damage percentages numbers of all of these things, but it's the easiest one to put up. It's also the one that you must have on in order to activate Broken Flow Slash or Broken Flow Burst. You can't just do Broken Flow Burst if they don't have Broken Flow on them. So you need to put Broken Flow on them in some way. This is why the Elemental Burst, if you're using the ranged form, it will put the initial Broken Flow on them and also refund not all of the energy, but some of the energy that you spend there. Now, his Ascensions are also very strong. So his first Ascension, this is not a Constellation, his Ascension. So this is what you're going to be getting for leveling him up. The Broken Flow debuff duration is going to be increased by an additional 8 seconds. In the second Ascension, critical hits dealt by normal and charge attacks while in melee stance also apply Broken Flow to enemies that you hit. That is very powerful, and this is probably going to make you want to lean towards a crit hit rate build, which most damage dealers do in the game in Genshin Impact near the end of the game when you're trying to get your good gear together, because it's just one of the best ways to increase your damage, crit hit chance, and crit hit damage. But this is going to allow you to just kind of like supersede the whole how do I get broken flow up initially sort of aspect on Childe, because if you are just critting things in your normal form or your melee form, you're gonna be getting broken flow on there, and then you're gonna be putting broken flow slash on, and it's just gonna be, it's gonna be amazing. All right, it's gonna be fantastic. Now, the other thing about Childe that is actually kind of very strong, you know how all the characters have a utility passive, right? Like you can refund, you know, materials when you make weapons, or you can maybe get an additional crafting material, or maybe you make an extra food 12% of the time. Childe's is you have an extra level of your normal attack slash charge attack talent on all your characters if he's in your party. That's actually very strong. Now, it's not the most broken thing, but it's the first passive, the utility passive, that actually benefits your in-combat prowess. And some characters out there really like their normal attack and charge attacks. Childe probably is going to be very powerful with that. It's a very cool thing to have access to on your team slot with Childe in there. He's going to be a very in and out sort of damage dealer. You can have a little bit of fallback. You can have a lot of uptime on the melee form. That's where he's going to be doing probably a lot of his damage there is in that melee form. Now, we also have access to his Constellations. Okay, so his Constellation here, his first Constellation is going to reduce the cooldown of his elemental skill by 20%. This is going to give you an increased uptime on his elemental skill. His melee form doesn't have 100% obviously, so you're going to be going into the melee form, doing some damage, and you'll be coming out. This is going to reduce it by 20%. His Constellation 2, if you destroy an enemy while they're afflicted by broken flow, you're going to be gaining 4 elemental energy. So this one's pretty cool as well. Obviously, it's good against hordes of monsters, not so much the big single target types that we see. So if you're using him in hard time mode content, you're going to want to put him against a whole ton of monsters there. That way you can defeat them all as quickly as possible, get that free energy recharge, and use that elemental burst. Now, his Constellation 4 is a little interesting. The translation here is a little wonky. So every 4 seconds, enemies afflicted by his debuff of broken flow, they'll take an extra hit. And the kind of hit that he takes depends on whether he's in melee form or if he's in range form. Now, this to me sounds like when you afflict someone with broken flow, every 4 seconds when you proc the broken flow AoE damage, it almost sounds like it'll proc an extra time. Because the only thing that I know that changes based on whether he's in melee stance or if he's in range stance is the broken flow, right? You have normal broken flow, and then you have broken flow slash. So that might be what that means. Not quite sure there. And then C6 is pretty powerful. When using Q in melee stance, it completely resets the cooldown of his elemental skill. And this effect will take and will activate and reset the cooldown of his elemental skill when his melee stance ends. So what you'll be able to do is you'll be able to, you know, do your broken flow thing, get into melee form, use your normal attack combos, pop the elemental burst, do some more normal attacks. You have that crit hit rate build, you have that Ascension, so you're just constantly doing broken flow, slash of the broken flow burst, and then you wear off, and you can go right back in it. You can go right back into your melee form again. So that's going to be an insane Constellation. Obviously, it's Constellation 6, so you know, it's a little bit of a crazy thing there. Now, the craziest thing about actually Childe, on top of all the things, is that he's a bow user. He equips bows. So there's a lot of really good bows in the game. There's a lot of questions that are going to need to be answered as to determine what bow you're going to really want to put on him. So now, if we take a look at some of the bows here, the Skyward Harp is the one that stands out between the 2 5-star bows for me a ton. And this is because it simply has critical hit rate, which he wants. Most damage dealers do at the end of the game. So a critical hit rate bow, fantastic. It increases your critical hit damage on top of that passively as well. Amazing. And then it has the AoE damage proc. So he does do already AoE damage procs himself. So he's going to be designed as like a best case like AoE cleaver type character with the broken flow system, whether it's broken flow or broken flow slash or broken flow burst. This one's going to give him free AoE damage on top of that. Now, it's not AoE hydro damage, it's just going to be AoE physical attack damage, so it's not going to be buffed up by his hydro damage increase or anything of that nature. But this is going to be a very strong option for him if you have the Skyward Bow. The Amos Bow has attack percent, and it does have that normal attack and aim shot damage increase for you there. So that's pretty good, but then it's got the, you know, the farther your arrows fly, the more damage you do. That's going to help out his bow form, obviously, but a lot of the time, it seems like you're going to be trying to want him to be doing all of your damage or big damage Broken Flow Slash, Broken Flow Burst. That's going to be his melee form, and you're not shooting arrows in your melee form, so that doesn't seem to help out all that much. Viridescent Hunt seems like a mini version of the Skyward Harp here. Critical hit rate, has a little bit of AoE damage there, so that could be cool. The Stringless is a weird question as to whether or not this would be a thing that you want to use on him. Possibly, maybe. And this is because we don't know how the elemental skill damage and the elemental burst damage increase to Childe will look like. I don't think that this is going to apply to all of your normal attacks and your elemental normal attacks that you do in your melee form. I don't think that's going to work for that there, but if it did, that'd be very strong, especially if you're using him because he is a Hydro character. You can bring a Pyro character and put him in a Vaporized team, and he's going to be doing a lot of damage that way. So that could be something very cool for him as well. So that's something that you want to think about there. And then obviously the Rust is also another very interesting one to think about. So this is because the physical damage bonus is not going to work on him in any way, shape, or form. So that's like it's a dead stat for Childe. Physical damage bonus up, that is a dead stat. It's going to work on maybe his bow form, normal and charge attack, right? But if you can get like a high rank refined Rust, and it has this 80% normal attack damage increase. So that's going to apply to all of his melee form water damage. So you have 80% normal attack damage there. That's very powerful. So not only is it going to be buffing up all of that melee form damage for you there, on top of that, remember the tentative translation we have right now for Broken Flow, Normal, Slash, and Burst is it says that it's calculated as a normal attack or a regular attack. Now, does this mean a normal attack? We won't know until it's officially translated in the game, but if it is a normal attack, then this means that this bow is not only increasing your melee form damage, but it could also increase every single AoE proc that you get from Broken Flow, from your bow form, from your melee form, which is going to be, he's a fast, quick hitting type character. You'll be proccing that a lot, especially with high critical hit rate, and from the elemental burst on top of that. So it'll be interesting to see how good of an option this will be out of all of the bows there, because that physical damage bonus is just going to be a dead stat for him there. The attack on the Rust bow is 42. It's not the highest in the game, but it's pretty all right there. So that could be a very solid option on top of all of that for you there. So there's some pretty cool options here in the game here. Now we also have the compound bow on top of that. So normal attack and aim shot attacks give you that attack speed and that attack percent damage increase. This downside also has physical damage bonus on it. This one in particular, I'm not sure if this one would be able to make up for that dead stat on that physical damage bonus, because 80% normal attack damage is just so strong. And the Rust might be worth looking at, not only because the 80% normal attack damage, if you get it max refined somehow out there, I've seen a couple of you guys get it, but on top of that, if it procs off the Broken Flow and makes all of that damage scale up on top of that, that'll be a very solid option for you. So Childe looks insanely fun. He looks very strong tentatively right now. So if you're looking forward to a new character, Hydro Damage Dealer, he's going to be a cool guy. So if you want to see more stuff like this, Genshin Impact content on the channel, go ahead, do the traditional YouTube thing. Until then, guys, stay safe out there, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care, guys.